Hello and welcome to another Guidance of the Wiltshire video. This is another faction overview with myself, Gary, Luke, Tom Welsh and Jonny Wright. How are we, gents?
Good. Very well, thank you.
Excellent.
Very much looking forward to this one.
I was going to say, Luke, this is your bread and butter. This is what I've known you for as long as I've known you.
I might be able to speak a little bit more on these ones now.
Yeah. So we'll follow the same format as we have done before. We'll talk through a hero, his profile, or their profile, apologies, war gear, heroic action, special rules, etc. And then we'll have a bit of a chit chat about the actual how you guys have used it. So we will move straight on to the first hero, Gil-galad, High King of the Elves. So he has the elf Rivendell infantry and hero keywords. He is a hero of legend. He has move 6, fight 9, 3+ shoot, strength 4, defense 7, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, courage 7, 3 might, 3 will, 1 fate. He comes with heavy armor and a gloss. He has options for a horse and a shield. He has a good range of heroic actions, being resolve, strike, strength, defense, and challenge. So special rules, Agos gives is an elven made spear and gives +1 to wound when making strikes. He has blood and glory, which is gaining a might point back every time you say a hero. Terror, obviously courage test to charge. Woodland creature can move quickly through woods or full speed through woods on foot. High King of the Elves is a 12-inch standfast, and additionally friendly elf heroes may use his standfast. And Lord of the West may reroll a single d6 when making a dual roll and a single d6 when making 2 wound roll. Other bits to note: he can upgrade High Elf Warriors to Kingsguard at a point per model to have a fight value of 6 and a 3+ shoot. And if your force contains Arwen, Elladan, Elrohir, Lindir, or Bilbo, then it will lose the army bonus, and the force would be impossible allies with every other army list. So, gents, a lot to talk through.
Yeah, he is the High King of the Elves, so he has got the special rules to go with it, and also the profile. I've been trying to think of lists recently because games are starting to become possible. I'm trying to do lists without him, but I keep falling back to him. He's just really good. I don't know what you guys think. Is he sort of auto-include at any points level, or?
No, I think he's the best hero, but not the best leader, as we'll probably discuss next. But the fight 9 means you often don't have to strike, and +1 to wound, and Lord of the West is one of the best rules. So he's my favourite, probably.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, I think to use a football analogy with Gil-galad, his fate of 1 can be a bit off-putting, but your opponent can't score if you haven't got the ball. So the fight 9 with the might to an auto 10 is so hard to look past, especially if he's mounted and charging 4 attacks. He's with his re-roll, and if you've got Banner around as well, he's very rarely losing a fight.
I think you're going to probably most definitely going to give him the horse and the shield, and at defense 8 there's a lot of things that are finding it kind of difficult to wound in the first place. I think he's pretty excellent. I think he gets looked past a bit from people who don't play High Elves. Like for me, when I've looked at High Elves before, I've never even thought of running Gil-galad. Elrond with the Knights and Glorfindel have been the ones which we'll come on to next. And his standfast of letting other friendly elf models pass as well. That's incredible. Didn't even realise he had that.
Yeah, it's not something that comes up often because it's obviously elves that got high courage anyway.
Yeah.
But I've had games where your captain or Aristor or someone's rolled a double 1, they run, and it's gut wrenching. So to have Gil-galad at courage 7 there, I know there might be Harbinger and that sort of stuff that's in the meta and things. Give it -1. He's not going to run away easily. His troops, his other high heroes aren't going to run away. It's just something that doesn't come up often, but it is really good. Anything with a 12-inch stand fast is unbelievable. But the fact that he can now affect heroes is awesome.
Well, and the fact he's a hero of legend as well, so he's also passing the first one.
Yeah. So you can get that sort of chain of stand fast going, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I often forget the Blood and Glory, which I think is the best, just extra bonus for him, just to keep getting more might back, killing easy things, which with 8 strikes if you charge is pretty likely.
Yeah, I think especially in a Rivendell list where there's not a massive amounts of might because your heroes are some of them are super expensive and others don't have much. Blood and Glory is really, really handy.
I think for me, that's, with Gil-galad unlocking Kingsguard as well, that's sort of a pseudo way of getting past the lack of might, because going to fight 6, particularly against evil forces, you bleeding that might out of your opponent. That they will have extra because of the cheap heroes, so it levels the playing field so much, particularly at lower points.
I think even in blue on blue, imagine playing Rides of Theoden and having Kingsguard at the front and they charge in to call their death and whatnot, and you're immediately higher fight than them.
Yeah.
It's a real toss up of what your opponent wants to do.
And he's got a nice range of heroic actions as well. The strike there if he ever needs it. The strength, so you could go to strength 5 with +1 to wound. Could be good to get that dwarf hero down maybe, or when he comes up against another hero legend, say like Theoden for example, getting that heroic challenge off could be pivotal as well. Stopping the whole Theoden buffing his troops and all that sort of thing.
You're most probably going to heroic combat with him, aren't you?
You are most of the time going to be combating, because if you charge him into, say, a lower hero like an heroic captain or something like that, he's going to win the fight. He's going to have 8 strikes at +1 to wound. He's going to get that might point back, and then he's going to something else and killing 2 or 3 models. So that's why I said at the beginning, I think he's one of those models that if you play elves, you can't look past him to try and get him in your army whatever way you can. Yeah.
So we'll move swiftly on to his second in command. So Luke?
Yes, second in command, depending on which age and where you're looking in the timeline, is Elrond, Master of Rivendell. He has keywords of Elf, Rivendell, Infantry, and Hero, and he's also a hero of legend. He is move 6, fight 6 with a 3+ shoot. He is strength 4, defense 5, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, courage 7, and then 3 might, 3 will, and 3 fate. He comes with Hadhafang and Vilya. So his sword, Hadhafang, is an elven hand and a half. And then when wounded in spirits, he gets +1, which is always nice. And then Vilya makes him reroll, or doesn't make him, but he can choose to reroll his dice when using fate points. Options, you can give him heavy armor and a horse. Heroic actions wise, he has heroic resolve, heroic channel, heroic strike, and heroic defense. Special rules, he's got terror and woodland creature, which we covered before. He also then has foresight of the Eldar. So at the start of a game, you roll a d6. Whatever the result is, these are Elrond's foresight points. You can then use these throughout the game to add to your priority roll or take it away, depending on how you want to do that, to a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 6. And his final rule is Lord of the West, which we covered before as well. He does have some magical powers. he has Wrath of Bruinen on a 4+, and then Renew on a 3+. So, yeah, thoughts, guys?
Best one for a leader, I think. If you've got enough points to have both, which is pretty rare. The re-rolling fate and having 3 fate means he very rarely dies unless you're unlucky.
Yeah, he's very much like Gandalf or Galadriel, isn't he? You kind of no-brainer for your leader.
Yeah, I mean, as generals go, I don't think you can look past him as an option. I mean, we've talked about Gil-galad, who is pretty hard hitting, but Elrond just has that. I mean, particularly with Foresight of the Elder as well, he has that ability to remove variance from games. You know, at key point, using his Foresight, if you remember to use it, which is often the bane. If you've used it late game, again, you know, you talk about that sort of pseudo might where high elves are short of might, but the ability to swing a whole turn and either, you know, move after the opponent or steal a march on them at a key time and tie up heroes when taking courage tests or something, it's too hard to look past for that all-rounder. You know, particularly you talk about tournament play, you need to be able to either be sort of Swiss Army knife or rock, paper, scissors, and he very much falls into that Swiss Army knife category for me.
And often with knights, the foresight becomes invaluable, just trying to get more chances to get charges.
Yeah, it is worth noting that Elrond, if your army contains Elrond, then Rivendell Knights do not count with the blow limit, which obviously enables you to have a full Rivendell Knight army. I think he's excellent. His magical powers just give him a little bit extra. You're most probably just using Wrath of Bruinen, aren't you?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I used Renew with him. It is almost always Wrath of Bruinen.
Never. I was mean to. It just never becomes an option. You've always blown all the might will by then.
Like with Gil-galad, always on a horse and always heavy armor.
Even more so for the Wrath of Bruinen and just for the extra range from the base, I'd say.
Yeah, most definitely. As it's gone down to a 3-inch area effect, having that extra 15 mil on your base can just get those extra couple of models, which is crucial, especially in an all-night army.
So very satisfying against Army of the Dead, which I've seen at most tournaments at least one army.
And Hadafang as well.
Yeah, I was going to say I've played against Rivendell Knights with Barrow White and had Elrond charge the Barrow White and suddenly go, +1 wind, and I've not realised, and it's like, right, okay then, here we go.
Yeah, it's not something that makes or breaks him. It's just that little bit of a bonus. Spirit models, you'll most likely face, as Tom said, if you're an Army of Dead at a tournament, there will be some sort of ring wraith as well, or Angmar, like say with the Barrow Whites. So it's not something that will always come up, but it's just nice to have, and it represents what you see in the Hobbit films.
Yes,
which is nice.
Yeah, I think he's a very good leader. Very good leader. I tend to see him more than Gil-galad, I would say, at tournaments. But that's because you see Rivendell Knight armies.
I used to use Gil-galad as my no, I didn't use him as my general. I used to use, in the Hobbit, I used to use Eristor as general back when you were able to use lower tier heroes, and then have Gil-galad and the twins. Again, not historically accurate, but it was okay in that rule set, just running around chopping stuff up. But I think now it's too hard to look past Elrond at sort of 700-800 points. You definitely can't get both in.
No, I was going to say, I think it is one or the other, or the third option. which we'll come on to next. But yeah, I think it comes down to play style and personal choice.
Yeah.
That you would go one or the other.
One thing we haven't said so far is Gilgalad and Elrond come together still on the web store.
Yes. Well, there's two
And,
lots of Elrond, isn't there?
Yes.
Oh, there's two lots of Elrond, yeah. Of course there is. So you got that pack, then you've got obviously the mounted Elrond that comes with Lindy, who we'll come on to.
Yeah.
And
they
the
are.
Gilgalad pack is still metal.
No, they're Finecast, I think.
Yeah, Linda's Finecast.
I know that pack's Finecast, and I think the Elrond and the Gilgalad are Finecast. But
Okay.
but the metals which we've shown on screen are dead easy to find.
So easy to find.
Dead easy to find. So next we'll move on to Glorfindel. Tom, if you want to take us through the profile.
Okay. Glorfindel, Lord of the West, is elf, obviously. Rivendell, infantry and hero of valor, so 15 warriors. Move 6 inches, fight value 7 with a 3+ shoot, strength 4, defense 5, attacks and wounds 3,
Yeah, that's
and
that's a misprint on mine.
courage 7, and then 3 might, will and fate again. He has an elven hand-and-half sword with the options for armor of Gondolin and Asphaleth, which is a 12-inch movement horse, and the armor means you cannot be targeted by brutal power attacks. And then heroic actions of resolve, strike, strength, and challenge. And then special rules, expert rider, so he can re-roll thrown rider tests. And is it jump tests on a horse as well, or am I wrong about that?
So, if you continue,
Might not be right on that one.
If you continue, I will find it.
Horse Lord, so he can spend his fate on his horse, which is quite useful. Terror, woodland creature, Lord of the West again, and Unbending Resolve, which he always counts as having Fortify Spirit cast on him, even when reduced to 0 will. So he gets 2 free dice to resist spells, which is very good.
So quickly, expert rider, you can reroll jump, swim, and throw rider tests, and you can pick up light objects. The other part of it doesn't apply to him because he doesn't have a shield.
Yeah.
So I've used Glorfindel, and I thought he was really good. Fight 7's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, not needing to strike off the bat just forces your opponent to think, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What am I going to do to deal with him?
It's also worth noting that Asphaleth gives you Fleetfoot, which is essentially a woodland creature for a mount. So you can charge through woodland and gain your bonuses without any trouble at all.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realise how good Asphaleth can actually be.
For 10 points, absolutely.
10 points. That extra 2 inches of movement, especially when you like doing heroic combats and trying to measure, maybe they're trying to keep certain people away, and they don't realise, oh wow, he can get up there really quickly.
Yeah.
He can flank around the back into like a shaman or something like that, deal with him quite easily. And yeah, charging through the woodland doesn't come up as often, but maybe someone tries to hunker down in the woods, capturing objectives. He's going, no, going straight in.
Sending Glorfindel.
Yeah.
Have you guys had much experience with Glorfindel?
A bit. I prefer the other two, but he's slightly cheaper. And the Unbending Resolve, I think, is what makes him stand out the most to me. Because the others can just be transfixed quite easily after a turn or two.
So, for me, I think his biggest problem versus the other two is actually his tier of hero. Only being able to take 15, I think, not to sort of come on to Círdan too early, but Círdan's FAQ really hurt pure Rivendell for me, because there's a sweet spot around 700, 800 points where you can quite easily fill your heroic tier full of warriors. And although he's 30 points cheaper, dropping those 3 models also means you've got more points spare, which you still can't do anything with, in my experience. So
I completely agree with that. Again, trying to build lists for games coming up, and want to use Glorfindel to mix it up, because I've actually rarely used it. But trying to get the points at sort of higher levels, it's really difficult, to be fair.
Yeah.
And still have a decent sort of model count.
Yeah, and like I say, with Círdan at 12, it fits nicely, and the biggest problem in The Hobbit was the fact that you could only take 12 in warbands, and you came up against the same problem where you end up with sort of, I don't know, 30 points spare or whatever it might be, which when your numbers are low is a real problem in the first place, and you really need to capitalise on that. So the move in the new rule set to the expanded warbands was great, but for pure Rivendell, and I completely understand the FAQ, but for pure Rivendell, it really impacted it for me and kind of reversed that positive change from the previous rule set.
Yeah, that seems fair. Like I said, I've not played Rivendell extensively, but the one tournament I have taken them to, I took Glorfindel and Círdan. It was only 500 points, so I didn't come across that. I found the Unbending Resolve is good. However, you can still fluff dice. That's how this game works. And I was winning in the game. It was against 5 Ringwraiths. But someone chucked a transfix at Glorfindel. I was like, cool, 1 will, 2 free ones, and triple 1. So
yeah,
like, it's still like a possibility.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, I think he's really good. And his armor and Asphaleth is excellent. He is still available in metal, but you can't get the unarmored foot and mounted anymore. You have to eBay that, and a mounted one you have to convert. So,
yes. So if you want to use it, you've got to put the work in.
Yeah. So,
quite an easy one though, luckily.
Yeah, you get a twin, you do a head swap and a bit of an armor swap. So we'll move on to the next one. John, if you want to take us through this one.
Yeah, so apologies for not having my books to hand.
That's all right, just read off the screen.
Okay, so Eristor, he is an elf, Rivendell infantry, so obviously movement 6. He has that nice fight 6, and the 3+, which does come into play with Eristor, despite him not having a bow. Strength 4, defense 7, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, the high courage 6, and 2/2/2, which is pretty nice for a hero of fortitude. Heavy armor is included, as are his Noldorin daggers, which is a strength 4 throwing weapon, and also allows him to reroll failed wounds in combat and when throwing his daggers, which is pretty special. He's got heroic strike, causes terror, and he's a woodland creature as well. So, I mean, for me, he is, unless you're desperate for heroic march, for his points and what he gives above a high elf captain, he's an auto include in that sort of hero of fortitude slot. Like I mentioned, I used to use him as my general a lot because of he's pretty survivable, and it used to allow Gil-galad and the twins to run riot. So I've used Eristor quite a lot, and I think the strength 4 throwing weapons are pretty clutch as well at times.
Yeah, I think these are. I think he's really, really handy. I've used him once or twice. Luke, you used to use him a lot, didn't you?
I used to use him in exactly the same way as Johnny said. Give him an elven cloak as well in the old edition, which you could stick him in some woodland behind a tree and just let everyone else do the work. In the new edition, his stats have got better. He only used to have 1 might, 1 will. He used to have 3 fate, but got to take the extra might. But yeah, without the Elven Cloak, now he's actually getting into combat, and with the buff with the thrown weapon situation, so you don't get the -1 now for charging in. He's re-rolling for a 3+ to hit wherever he's charging into, and then he's re-rolling to wound as well. So more often than what used to be, he's going to kill an extra guy before combat starts, which is nice. Haven't used him as much in the new edition, but I still think he's pretty solid. I know, Tom, you've used him a few times.
Yeah, it's a luxury to have a relatively cheap hero in Rivendell. Obviously not cheap compared to everyone else, but compared to the previous 3. I didn't know his throwing weapons were strength 4, though. So that's...
Yeah, I've only noticed that because it says he may use them as throwing weapons, which is pretty cool.
That's something I've overlooked that makes him even better then.
Yeah.
And it's just a cheap strike as well, although the odds are you're going to have one of the other 3 in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for that profile, he's a good points value. He's something you may look at lower points if you want to get 3 heroes in rather than one big one and a smaller one. But I think he's pretty solid.
Yeah.
He's just an all-round solid profile.
Also good model.
Yeah, really
Good
cool
one to
model.
paint.
And he is still a meta.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they've combined his and Glorfindel now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And they're the same pack now, which is nice.
Annoying if you've already bought Glorfindel.
Yeah. Well, you got to spare there for the conversion.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I managed to find a single pack still at Warhammer World. So I got lucky there.
Nice. So we'll move on to the first of Elrond's children, which is, if my mouse is going silly there, Arwen and Dornril. So she elf Rivendell infantry hero, move 6, fight 6, 3+ shoot, strength 3, defense 3, 1 attack, 2 wounds, courage 6, 1 might, 4 will, 1 fate. She comes with an elven made sword. She has her resolve, channel, and defense. Her options are Asfalth, like with Glorfindel, a horse, or an elven cloak. She has expert rider. She has woodland creature. She also has Wrath of Burinan, like Elrond, and she has been FAQ to be a minor hero. However, I have just opened up the FAQ in front of me, and the other change is that she can now be included in the fellowship if
Yes.
if Aragorn
is. Yeah.
So I think obviously the immediate things that let her down are defense 3 and 1 attack. I'm not sure why she's 1 attack.
Don't know. But
I suppose most of the time you see it in and around Rivendell. It's only the flight.
Yeah, so normally she's with Rivendell Knights. She's mounted, so 2 attacks on the charge. The reason she's there is that 4 will for the Wrath of Bruinen, I think.
Oh yeah, massively.
Which is also a 4+, which is pretty good.
There's also a 4+, which is really good. So you're going to chuck 2 dice at it each time. More than likely to get it. I think where she's been hurt with that FAQ from Minor Hero is the 6 warrior drop. So you're not going to see her in those, not all foot, but the infantry army side of it. You may still see her in knight armies because 500 points, probably looking at her Elrond 6 and 6, that sort of thing, at lower points. But yeah, the minor hero thing is her downfall, I'd say. I'm not too fussed about the defense 3, to be honest, because she's not got any armor on.
Yeah,
makes sense.
So yeah, I'm not too
And
fussed.
you're probably not going to throw into combat as well, to be honest.
No. Well, once she's out of Will, chuck her in. She's an extra fight 6 cav model more often than not. So
Fight 6 with Elven Sword, which is crucial.
yeah, nothing to scoff at all, to be honest. I've had times where she's surrounded by orcs, she gets that single 6 and then just backs them all off. So yeah, it's not a bad thing. I think is she the cheapest hero in the list? Or joint cheapest, sorry. So yeah, if you are stuck for 60 points or 70 points or so, and you can't get another bigger hero in, she's there to get more troops. So
Good for objective grabbing if you need it for that, although quite a lot of points for just that.
But it's the stand pass that comes with it as well, isn't it?
And the same with Glorfindel can nip through terrain and possibly sway a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure she has a place anymore. Really, she's such a niche choice, and I think for the Wrath of Bruin and for the same points, I'd maybe take another hero who doesn't have it, but might help someone who does have it.
yeah.
Not to spoil things.
Like I said, I think she fits into a certain way of playing. Obviously, I think either a fully mounted or a majority infantry force, not a bit of both.
No, I think even with that new special rule where she can join the Fellowship, if Aragon's in there, unless you go in pure theme and fluff, you won't see that happen.
She's more useful than some of the Hobbits.
True. For not many more points, yeah.
For some of them. So we'll happily move on to the next one, which, Luke, I know you've used these guys a lot.
Yeah, so the second and third now of Elrond's children, Eladan and Elrohir. They have the keywords Elf, Rivendell, Infantry, and their Heroes of Fortitude. The war gear, they come with armor and 2 elven-made swords. They have options for horses, elf bows, elven cloaks, and heavy armor. They have heroic strike. Special rules, they have woodland creature, twin elven blades, and unbreakable bonds. So twin elven blades, they can, while fighting on foot, they may choose to fight in one of 3 ways. So they may either fight using a single sword, as if it were two-handed. They may elect to fight with both swords for an extra attack, or they may elect to parry, which counts as shielding. So nice little mix there. And unbreakable bond. So should one brother be killed, the surviving brother will immediately increase their strength by 1 and decrease their defense by 1. The surviving brother will automatically pass all courage tests they are forced to make and must do everything they can to charge the model that killed their brother as quickly as possible. Once that model is killed, the surviving brother must move as fast as possible towards the closest enemy model for the remainder of the game, charging if able. That's the key bit, if able. Additionally, if the model that killed the brother is a hero model, the first time the surviving brother is in combat with his brother's killer, he must declare a heroic challenge targeting the hero without spending might. This may be done even if the hero is of a lower tier than a surviving brother. Bit of a mouthful, but pretty straightforward. So yeah, as you said there, I use these guys a lot in the old edition. I think I did Elrond these guys in Load of Knights a fair few times. Yeah. Stat-wise, I don't think I said that actually. I skipped that. Move 6, fight 6, 3+ shoot. Strength 4, defense 5, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 6, 3 might, 2 will, 2 fate. So yeah, thoughts, guys?
Possibly the best value, although a slight liability if one dies and then the other one buggers off. But getting 6 might and essentially 2 sets of 3 attacks is pretty good for the cost.
Yep. And the bows as well, I guess. Bows with might.
Yeah. Interesting that the parrying counts as shielding, but you are using the swords, so you get the buff of the Elven Roller. You won't see that too often. I know Tom used these guys a lot on foot.
Yeah, a bit of a weird choice. I think having a horse is arguably better because you're still getting 3 attacks and you're knocking stuff down, but you means you have to get a charge when often I don't really like roll-offs for heroic moves. And on foot, they get all of their +1 attack buffs and they can sit in the middle of a line of infantry and be fairly unstoppable.
Yeah.
So you lack the mobility and the knocking over, but you can often trap stuff if it's going well, as I like to pair them with Bilbo to be sneaky. And yes, 20 points because you have to get both of them horses. I don't know, I just like having them on foot.
Yeah, I don't think there's a disadvantage to leaving them on foot. Like you say, 20 points, that's 2 extra guys. And as you said, you're still getting 3 attacks regardless, all of the time, which is cool.
Yeah. And 6 might's the standout thing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are some occasions where you might want one of the brothers to get killed if it's killed by the right hero. Because then you go and obviously you call your challenge, and if they deny it or decline it, then you've got a buff and you've still got a twin who's going nuts at them anyway.
I've had this against Aragorn before. My opponent accepted it thinking he'd win, and just through a mixture of good and bad luck, they were stuck for about 3 or 4 turns. So it just kept Aragorn still while the rest of the army did everything else.
Yeah, like I said, that's one of the beneficial moments. Having another strike from Fight 6, or 2 models that can strike from Fight 6, is always handy.
Yeah. And if you get one killed in the right order when the other twin is against something bigger, you can try and get them up to strength 5, which admittedly requires a lot of setting up or bad luck and reversing. But
yeah,
if you're picking the order of fights, it could work out.
Most definitely.
Definitely, in my experience, better if you keep them paired together as well. You flip between the mights of one and the other, and heroic combat with one, catapult them both. Almost 16 plus the base, 18 inches along the board can be quite devastating.
Yeah.
And it stops one being sent off to the other side of the board if one dies.
Yep.
Yeah, they're good.
I was going to say, especially if you keep them together and one dies, then the other one immediately doesn't have to go far, and after that, it's just a troop killing machine.
I've had they're varying degrees of experience with these guys. Either they are absolutely amazing, or they are very much the sort of glass hammer type thing where they can do a lot of damage, but if they get into a tricky situation, they can go down fairly easily. And as you said, if you've got the brother in the wrong position and one dies, it can mess things up for you massively.
Yeah.
But that's probably one game of tournament sort of thing. Something like that might happen.
The other nice tweak from the last rule set is that I think it used to stipulate that you drop to defense 4, and now it's just -1 defense.
Yeah,
so if you've got the heavy armor, you don't go from 7 to 4, you go from 7 to 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which makes a big difference.
I was going to say, it doesn't stipulate you have to use might to try and get to the opposing model that's killed one of the brothers as well?
No.
So I know there was.
It's just a tricky one. So if you do play it right, you can avoid those situations where you don't want him going the wrong way, sort of thing. You can manipulate it if need be.
Yeah, because like I say, you move one model at a time, don't you? And if you can't charge the model that he needs to, then you can get him charging into something else.
Yeah.
I think your opponent has to be quite savvy as well to know how to separate when one's died, to separate the other off. And if you've not played against them before, then perhaps you're not quite up to speed with using that to your advantage.
Yeah.
So it's a soft disadvantage, really, for the most part.
Yeah, like I say, I've played against Luke enough times that they can be catastrophic, and they can also be a complete liability.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the next hero, which is you, Tom.
Yep. Lindia of Rivendell is again an elf Rivendell infantry and hero of fortitude. He is move 6, fight 5, 3+ shoot, strength 4, defense 4, 1 attack, 2 wounds, courage 6, only 1 might, 3 will, 1 fate. He has an elven sword, has the options for heavy armor to make him defense 6, and a horse. No heroic actions, well, other than the standard. Woodland creature, same as everybody. And then Song of Elbereth. All Rivendell models within 6 inches of Lindia gain resistant to magic rule. And Wise Counsel. If Lindia is within 6 inches of Elrond, then Elrond may expend a single point of will each turn without reducing his own store, even if he's out. So good for getting more Wrath of Brunins.
Yeah, he's the perfect partner to Rivendell on my list. I think, or at least one of the perfect partners.
Yeah, I think it may come out now that obviously since Arwen's FAQ and the whole Wrath of Bruinen FAQ, that he may take over that spot that she was taking in that army. Yeah, you're not getting 2 Wrath of Bruinens, but you're getting probably more over the course of the game.
Yeah. Well, you could go 1 a turn, basically.
Yeah.
Just chance it.
Yeah, so you could do 1 from his store and a free 1 3 times, and then you still got a free 1 to keep trying doing it throughout the game.
Biggest downfall for me is his 1 attack.
Yeah.
I think if he had 2 attacks, he would. I don't want to say an auto include. Obviously, if you've got Elrond, I think without Elrond, I don't even think you'd consider him.
No.
I don't know why you'd overlook a captain, but yeah, 2 attacks. It's not even the might. The might's not a problem, and I don't think the fate's a problem, because if you're going for him, you're not going for Elrond. And if you've already killed Elrond and you're relying on Lindia to close the game out, then probably having a bad time. Yeah. But if he had 2 attacks, with the horse, it'd make him a bit more of a threat as well. So it's probably. I mean, I've not used him yet with Elrond. I keep going to, but each time I can't shy away from Círdan in that spot. So yeah.
I think he's too many points to just buff Elrond.
Yeah.
It's infinite will, but also with Arwen, at least you get 2 chances in case 1 fails.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that choice you have to make between them.
I think he's useful. He is what, 3 Rivendell Knights, because you're going to be taking him in kind of force, aren't you? You're not going to take him in a foot force.
Well, it'll be 4 once you've given him the horse and armor. So he survives potentially better, but you're better off having 4 knights.
I think he's one thing we've not talked about yet is his resistance to magic. Everyone within 6 inches, well, Rivendell elves within 6 inches.
Yeah, that was the next point I was going to say, actually. That is
pretty strong.
Pretty big, yeah.
Yeah.
I think in the old edition, it had to be, I think it was only 3 inches in the last edition, and he had to
move first
before it happened. But now it it's just there.
Yeah.
Much better. I think if you're doing all mounted Rivendell at higher points, you'd see more often. But I think at that 5 to 6, I don't think
No,
you'd see him.
you want as many knights as possible at that
You want as many
point.
knights,
Yeah.
and probably something with a bit more might as well.
Like I said, I think he's a good, solid kind of mid-tier hero for Rivendell Knights. I don't think you'd see him elsewhere.
No.
So we'll move swiftly on to Johnny's favourite. Over to you, my friend.
Yeah, okay. Kurdan, Elf, Rivendell Infantry. He's now a minor hero, which is probably the biggest point of contention, certainly for me in a pure Rivendell list. Movement 6, fight 5. He is old. Strength 4, defense 4, 1 attack, 2 wounds, courage 6, 1 might, 4 will with his free 1 every turn, which is fantastic given the spells he's got, and 1 fate. He's unarmed, which is not ideal, but I think he more than makes up for that with the rest of his special rules. He's got a heroic channel, heroic resolve. He's resistant to magic. He causes terror. Woodland creature, and the shipwright's power, which is what gives him the free will a turn. And then he has Aura of Dismay, Blinding Light, Aura of Courage, and Enchanted Blades, which is, for me, he is the auto include. It's so difficult to look past him in any tournament list because he gives you that utility that you struggle to find, and he makes your numbers count with the Aura of Dismay. He makes your combats count with the Aura of Courage, and obviously Enchanted Blades. If you buff in one of the big 3 Elven Lords, then it's going to be very rare that you would fluff a combat.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yep.
When I took him with Glorfindel, I heroic combated Glorfindel with Enchanted Blades into a shade, killed that in a turn, even though it's Van's 8. It's just one of those. He's just so strong. I think the FAQ that came out in February was needed for him allying to other lists, but I do get your point that for a pure Rivendell list, it is quite a big nerf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that tipping balance. I think it gives you. I'd have to have a look again. I think at 700 points, it's like 30 points spare that you just can't do anything with.
Yeah, I think any list, I think as you said, Johnny, you are going to include him however you can. Whether that's at 450, whether that's at 1,000, he's going to be in 99, well not 99, maybe like 90% of all Rivendell lists, I'd say. Just because what he gives, it's incredible.
That's the only thing I don't like about him. I try and not have him in every army, but if you're going to an event,
yeah,
it's just too important. If you're relying on shooting, the blinding light just means you're not always safe, but probably at an advantage. He's great.
Yeah, couple blinding light with the army special rule of if your general's within 6 inches and you haven't moved, re-roll in to hit when shooting.
Yeah.
And you know your long bow range, it's he's so good, so good.
I've even seen him in like Rivendell Knight list, even though he can't take a horse, like because they're not going to engage for a while. And he's just like I say, that blinding light and that Aura of Command and the Aura of Dismay is the one I think that is probably the most useful because you're not a high model count army.
No.
I think if you're looking like 750, 800, you're not going to top 40 models.
No.
And your opponent's going to have at least 10 more than you. So having that, even if they've got the shaman or something like that, it's not going to affect their whole army. So it still forces some people to take courage tests, and having some fail means those guys that aren't charged can compile into where they're needed. I said it, auto include any level.
Yeah, and now he's become a lot easier to get hold of as well. Granted, he was on a made to order, but they appear on eBay and trade groups all the time.
Yeah.
So he's not as difficult to get hold of at all.
Not at all.
So moving on to someone who is quite difficult to get hold of, Gildor Inglorian. So this is kind of a bit of a left field Rivendell hero. So he has Elf Infantry Hero keywords. Note no Rivendell keyword. He is a hero of Fortitude. He has move 8. That's a mistake on my part. Fight 6, 3+, strength 4, defense 4, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, code 6, 1 attack, 1 might, 4 will, 1 fate. He has an overmade sword and elven cloak. He has her channel, resolve, march, and defense. He has terror and woodland creature, and he also has immobilize magical power on a 3+. His other option is if you include Gildor, you may include Wood Elf Warriors from the Lothlorien army list. It is Warband if they're part of this army list. These Wood Elf Warriors must be upgraded to Noldorian Exiles at a point at the cost of 1 point per model. Noldorian Exiles have a move of 8.
As does Gildor as well.
As does Gildor. I think he's pretty cool. He's niche within a niche list. And
I like him.
Yeah, I think have you used him yet, Tom?
Against Sean a couple of times. It's taken me about a year to find one on eBay that wouldn't cost me a leg.
Yeah.
But he's a nice model, and it's just a bit different. He's definitely one of the weaker heroes compared to the more expensive ones. Well, obviously. But he's just an extra 2 attacks, fight 6, and the immobilize is quite useful against, say, a troll. So yeah.
Yeah, I've never used him, I have to say. Partly, as Tom says, due to the scarcity of the model. Partly because I just can't fit him in a list. And Wood Elves being, defense 3?
Yeah.
In a list that is already reliant on, keeping the numbers alive.
He's definitely not the best choice, but I quite like it for a bit more mobility if you've not got a lot of knights. Just having a couple of extra inches movement.
Yeah, I think we might see him a little bit more in the upcoming Quest of the Ringbearer book, quite possibly. I don't know. This is me kind of speculating. He could be in the Legion. Who knows? But yeah, I think he's one of those a little bit left field. He's got Heroic March, which is one thing the other named heroes don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the Exiles, they can then move 11 inches, which is pretty scary for elves.
Yeah.
You don't want a load of fight 6 running at you like that. But yeah, I haven't used him before, but I don't think that's anything to do with the scarcity of the model. I just don't think he adds much compared to other heroes like your Círdan, who's an extra 10 points, or I don't think he adds that much more to your army.
Unfortunately, no.
He might get better, as Derry said, into the new book. He might get a Legion with some cool special rules and that sort of thing. But for now, I've never played against him. I don't think I ever will. But yeah,
played against him a couple of times in the old rules, and and it was him and 2 Stormcallers and a load of Wood Elves. But yeah, it wasn't too threatening. I didn't feel there was anything to worry about. He's not one of those heroes you look at and go, he's going to be a problem. So
I think that works to his advantage. If another one that people overlook, thinking low defense, never heard of him, and then fight 6 and 2 attacks, he's definitely among the worst options, but unexpected.
yeah,
There's no bad elf. Yeah, maybe he is one of those dark horses where someone suddenly takes him to a tournament and podiums, and everyone's after him. So
new craze. So we'll move on to the next hero. Tom, how convenient.
Bilbo Baggins, Hobbit, infantry, and an independent hero, so it has to be in somebody else's warband or on his own. Movement 4, fight value 3 with 3+ shoot, strength 2, defense 2, 1 attack, 2 wounds, 6 courage, 1 might, 3 will, and 3 fate. He has a dagger with the options of the mithril coat, which is +3 defense, sting, making him strength 3, and the 1 ring. He has heroic resolve. He is resistant to magic and can throw stones, like all hobbits. Who I think is great fun to include in an army, with his only real drawback being movement, if you have to walk onto the board and have to wait for him.
Yeah, I know you like to, or some lists that we've played, where you've got the twins, Bilbo and Eristor, or Círdan?
I had Círdan and Elrond, and I played at 1,000 points. I also had a Numenor captain. But pairing him with the twins in a line of elves with a banner behind them, and then ideally getting into an enemy hero and then popping the ring on and jumping behind them. If it all works out, you can trap them and halve their fight value so the twins don't have to strike.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think he's a fun extra inclusion and relatively cheap, assuming he can. Okay, he's helped me kill a Balrog before, so that made his points back.
Nice.
Epic.
Yeah. He's my auto-include after Círdan.
Johnny, have you included him in any of your lists before?
Not for Rivendell, no. I've not had a chance to use him yet with lockdown and everything, but
Yeah.
I've been looking at doing some sort of Lake Town, maybe Iron Hills, maybe Elven list, but yeah, no, not with Rivendell. To be honest, I've kind of overlooked him, but yeah, I would definitely consider him.
I was going to say, it's one of those heroes that's not, his profile's not spelled out in the Rivendell section, so you have to go looking for him elsewhere, and it's only in the army conversation at the front.
Yeah.
But any model with the ring can be worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
But like I say, the ability to half fight values. And then you've got a load of elves with elven-made weapons if it does come down to a roll-up as well. And you can even give him Sting again, which is an elven-made weapon. So,
And he's just an extra overlooked hero. If, say, something like Fog of War or Clash by Moonlight, he's an extra hero you can pick, put the ring on and go and hide, even if you don't need him for the actual halving fights.
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I've been intrigued to start including him, but it's just trying to fit him into. It's either him or 3 elves, and it's like 3 elves with a ring. Yeah.
He's only for higher point games, I'd say. It's too much of a points risk in low points.
It seems fair enough. And now, a captain that you might see. John, if you want to take us through this profile.
Of course, yeah. So, usual Elf Rivendell infantry, hero fortitude, movement 6, fight 6, 3+ to shoot, strength 4, defense 6, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 6, 2 might, 2 will, 1 fate. Sorry, 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. Heavy armor, hand and a half, elven made, sword. Crucially, I think the heroic march, expert rider, woodland creature, horse, elf bow, lance, and shield as options. So I guess you either go one of 2 ways with him, really. Be a horse, shield, and lance. Maybe a bow as well, I guess. Or you go in on foot with him, in which case probably shield and a bow. Depending on, where I think you're either falling into the category of pure infantry with a couple of Rivendell knights for the movement, or pure Rivendell knight cavalry list. But yeah, it's pretty solid all round. What are we in points? Basic 75. So starts to get a bit more expensive with some of those options. I think unless I wanted the march, I'd probably be taking Eristor instead for 5 points more. Maybe Lindy if I'm taking Elrond, but pretty good all-rounder.
Yeah, I think they're pretty solid. As you would probably expect, they're one of the better captain profiles in the game.
Anything that's strength 4 with a lance is remarkably good. I'm just not sure they're worth the points over, like you say, Eristor, who actually has a bit more interesting rules and more, well, not more might, but more surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're more likely to see him in a mounted list to get that extra movement for the knights with the march. If they're against another shooty army where they're going to struggle, getting them up the board a little bit quicker to charge, or
I think in Rivendell Knight list, the extra point of might as well over Lindy or
for the move offs, etc. Yeah, I tried to get him into sort of a Gilgalad kid, and this guy, I think that's about 750, 800. Obviously, to keep within Gilgalad's special rules where he can't have certain named heroes. Yeah, I think one of the more should be utilized captain models there are, and kitted out, I think they've got some real damage output.
Yeah, like Tom said, a lance with strength 4 is always handy. Always handy.
If you give him a bow as well, you got a point of might with a bow. If you want to take out hero's horse or something like that, so yeah.
Are they one of the more frequent? No, I don't think I've seen many of them on the tournament scene, to be honest.
No, you haven't.
Don't think I've ever seen one.
I think it's too hard to look past the named heroes, really.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those. It's like we discussed with the fiefdoms, saying you kind of want the captain there for heroic march, but you're also willing to sacrifice not having heroic march to get some of the other heroes in.
Yeah, you want the names that you know in front of you, don't you?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I did a blog. I mean, not to sort of drop other channels and whatever, but I did. I did a blog for Drawn Combat earlier in the year, and that was none of my lists included a captain at the end, and that was one thing that people kind of picked up on. They were saying, "Oh, well, why haven't you got a captain in for the march?" I've honestly never felt I've missed having march. I've always probably included a couple of cavalry models, or usually all of my heroes are mounted bar Círdan, so it's not something I've felt I've lacked. I think that's, I don't know, tends to be how I play the army is keeping them all together though. So, having part rush off. I can imagine certain scenarios where you're trying to get to the centre, or you're trying to sort of push your opponent out of your half of the board for objectives, etc. Then it could be useful, but situational.
Yeah, I think even for like seize the prize, you've got an army of elves, so they're not going to be fighting through you. They want to try and go round, which gives you the chance to obviously maneuver and then therefore try and take the prize back. So I don't think they're necessarily one of those armies that wants to get there first and get the prize.
I'm the same. I don't tend to use it. If I've got it, I have done occasionally, but anytime I don't have a captain, I've never missed it and thought, I wish I could move quicker. If you don't have it, you don't really miss it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we'll move on to the last hero, which is a High Elf Stormcaller. Again, Alpha and the infantry hero, and it's minor, and they're a minor hero. Move 6, fight 5, 3+ shoot, strength 3, defense 4, 1 attack, 2 wounds, courage 5, 1/3/1 might roll fate, armor, Elven sword, and a staff. Can heroic channel. Has no additional options. Has the woodland creature like all elves. And has powers of nature. So when a casting test is being made on a natural 6 on one or more dice, the will points spent in casting the power are returned to Stormcaster's store of will. And they have cool winds on a range of 12 with 3+ cast and strength and will. So I would say definitely the least seen of the two Stormcallers, being this one and in Rivendell and Lothlorien, sorry. Again, not one you'd see really.
No, in the old edition, I used to take a few times because I think Cool Winds was a lot better back then.
2+ under spell was better,
yeah. Yeah, he's sort of gone under the radar a little bit now. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw another one. I took him about 2 years ago.
I think you're the only one that I've seen taking a higher Stormcaller.
Yeah.
I think they're too many points, probably. Yeah,
maybe 10 too many.
The chance of getting will back is nice, but it's not guaranteed. So it's a lot of points to potentially only get one spell off. And they don't do anything else. Only 1 attack, low defense, the same fight as a normal warrior. They don't seem that interesting to me.
No,
Well, I have played against one with a Nazgul and been very scared when they tried to knock him off his Fell Beast. But again, they didn't roll a 6 with Lothlorien, and then it just seemed like a wasted hero.
Yeah.
I think that was the only reason I used to take this guy was in the old Fell Beast meta, get him off the Fell Beast.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I took him.
I think they fall into the category of they're an unnamed hero, and the list has a lot better other heroes, even other magical casters who are a lot better like you could end. So
yeah,
I think
you'd always pay the extra points for him.
Yeah, massively.
And it's a minor hero, so it's the same points issue again for me.
Yeah, definitely. So moving swiftly on, that is the end of the heroes. So move on to the warrior types. So Luke, if you take us through the first one.
Yeah, so going from about 25 heroes to quite a small troop choice. So you've got a High Elf Warrior, keywords Elf, Rivendell, Infantry, and Warrior. There's a typo there, they do not move 8, they move 6. They're fight 5 with a 3+ shoot, strength 3, defense 5, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 5. They come with heavy armor and a Elvenate hand-half sword. Options you can give them: a warhorn, a banner, an elf bow, a shield, or a spear. And they have the woodland creature special rule. Yeah.
They bread and butter, aren't they?
Yeah.
Pretty much say it does what it says in the tin. You're gonna be using a range of war gear, I would say.
Yeah, a bit of everything.
The only
Completely
thing,
forgot they could take a war horn.
I was going to say the only thing you're probably not going to take is a war horn.
Yeah.
Having your army at base courage 5
Yeah.
is good enough that you're not going to need one. There's no model for it as well, which is probably another thing.
Yeah, exactly.
High
Yeah.
defense, high fight. It's really annoying for people to play against.
Yeah,
Lacking in killing power a bit.
yeah, I think your heroes can make up for that. And you most likely got a double rank of them, so
Yeah.
you can
Two
pretty much-
hand with the front.
or even just feint in the front. So I think that they're stock standard, aren't they? They barring the Noldorian exiles, which we're coming to next, they're your only infantry choice.
Yeah. Not much else to say.
No. So it seems to have swapped the move values around on these two. That'll be just formatting from editing the presentation. So Tom, if you can take us through the correct Noldorian exile profile.
Yeah. So Noldorian exiles again, elf Lorien infantry, as they're from Lothlorien. They are movement 8, only taken with Gildor. Fight 5, 3+ shoot, strength 3, defense 3, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 5. They have elven cloaks and elven made hand and half swords. They have the options for banners, elf bows, throwing daggers, and wood elf spears. The wood elf spear allows you to parry, which counts as shielding, which is very useful. And they are woodland creature.
So I think we mentioned in with Gildor.
Yes.
Niche troop choice.
Yeah, bit of variety. I think their problem is although they're normally cheaper, they're the same points cost as an armored elf with Rivendell. So I again quite like them, but it's nice to have some throwing daggers, but they seem quite expensive for something that dies very quickly.
Yeah.
You got to get the right matchup for these to be useful, I think. If you are facing something with low fight, strength 3, no shooting, then yeah, great. Get the throwing daggers in there for the charging bonus. But yeah, I've never thought of taking these guys with Gildor. So yeah.
I wouldn't take a wood elf army list, so putting a wood elf warband into a Rivendell list has never crossed my mind.
Yeah, I think the other troops are more are better, and like I say, I think the defense is what you need in the Rivendell list, and these guys don't have it. So we'll move on to the last profile. Is Johnny, if you can take us through.
Yep. Okay. So elf Rivendell, which is important. Infantry warrior, heavy armor, lance, hand and a half sword. Also have the options for warhorn, banner, shield. They are expert riders, woodland creature. Movement 6, obviously increased with the horse.
Yeah.
Fight 5, 3+ shoot. Strength 3, better with the lance, obviously. Defense 5, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 5. So, yeah, I mean, I always try and drop a couple of knights in just for the mobility, objective grabbing. I've never really been wanting to take a pure Rivendell knight list. I just prefer the aesthetic of them on foot, and I prefer the additional numbers. But, you know, whether you take them as a whole force or whether you take them individually, I think they're a very, very strong choice. The lance is a big help, and obviously the knockdowns. If you sort of tuck them in behind your main line, it stops people trying to outflank you, or at least makes them pause for thought before they do so. Yeah.
I think they're arguably, if not definitely, the best cavalry in the game. They're just a lot of points. Also, they include their elf, bow, and horse in the points.
Yeah.
So with Elrond, you can get 100%, or everyone except Elrond with a bow, which still isn't actually many because there's so many points. But they can just do everything really well.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see many armies where there'll be like 6 Rivendell knights and infantry. It's probably 2 or 3, and then
Yeah,
infantry.
I've done that.
Of course,
I think it was 5 or 6. I can't remember which.
But yeah, or then it's a pure Rivendell Night Force, like we've spoken about
Yeah.
with some of the heroes. Like I say, they're good. If you're taking a Rivendell Night Force, you're probably always going to take a banner, just because cavalry need it. Apart from that, I think we'll move on to the army bonus, which we briefly mentioned previously. So I'm not going to try and say it.
Oh, come on. You
So,
guys well through.
yeah, so whilst within 6 inches of the army leader, friendly Rivendell models may reroll 3rd to hit rolls when making shooting attacks in a turn in which they did not move.
So
This is-
good.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's one of the army lists you don't really want to give up. Really, really helpful. It does make you a little bit cautious with your leader, I have found.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got like Elrond or Gil-galad, but you've got your bows with Círdan. It's kind of a little bit, you don't quite know where to go sometimes, or when to commit.
I find I'd normally sit back and maximize the shooting, which I know is really boring for your opponent, but you sort of have to with low models.
Yeah.
And then since you can't shoot into combat as good, you just charge the leader in once you've done as much as you can.
Yeah, I mean, you're hitting on 3s normally, then you re-rolling 1s, so
1s and 2s, isn't it?
I don't know what the...
Yeah, 1s and 2s, yeah.
Yeah, it's fair to hit rolls,
So-
which is amazing.
I think, I don't know what the odds are on that, but I've rarely had more than 1 dice in a pool miss. Which, if you've got, if you're thinking, if you're trying to max out your bows, you're looking at least maybe 9 or 10, if not 12. Having that many strength 3 bows coming at your opponent, even if they are defense 6 or higher, they still might lose a couple, and it's dwindling them down, isn't it? So
Like I said, I think it's one of the well, all the army lists I think are really good, but it's definitely up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then the historical alliances,